Welcome back to Kubica. This is a great place. Today I'm standing in front of Object 416. The same design bureau that ran the A44 project back in the early 40s had another crack in 1950 using similar principles to try to create a light tank of very low silhouette. 1951, the design parameters had changed. They're now trying to make an assault gun, basically, a self-propelled gun. By 1953, the design had modified a little bit more with the turret we have available to us now, and we're going to have a look at it. The very first thing you'll see, of course, is that the turret is to the rear, leaving us with a very long engine deck at the front. Underneath that is going to be a 400 horsepower, 20-cylinder boxer engine. That will send the drive through the transmission further forward to the final drives at the front, which is where the sprocket wheels are. Other than that, you'll see the headlight. The item to the front center is an infrared headlight for night driving. Nothing else of any great significance on the front of the tank other than the tow hooks. So we'll quickly have a look around the side at the suspension. Suspension and track were designed specifically for this vehicle. You'll note with particular interest the dual wheel arrangement, 6 pairs per side, combined with external guide horns instead of the more traditional center guides. The pins themselves are of the single-headed type. As near as I can tell, there is absolutely nothing keeping this thing in. And yet, unlike a T-34, I don't see a ramp to knock them back in if they go out too far. So I guess there's a trick to it I haven't figured out yet. Other than that, the suspension is torsion bar, unsupported, very simple mechanism. The back of the tank is almost more interesting than the front. You do have a very small stowage box here in the blackout marker. If you lift up the spring restrained fender, you can see how much sag there is pretty easily on the suspension. You can also see the 2 square-headed bolts that are used to extend or retract the idler wheel for track tension. As you move further back, we have the 2 mounting points for the MDH smoke generators, again MDH being the small naval generator, with a quick release option here for the driver to pull if he has to. Up on our turret we have additional stowage. There is a port here for the shell casings, the empties to be manually thrown out after they've been fired. Tow hooks, and that's it. Moving further forward, another very small stowage box, 2 large exhausts for the engine, and that's it. So the next step is the engine deck, and this is going to be the easiest tank mount in history. Easy as you just step up onto the tank. The first thing any real tanker is going to say when he gets up here is, what a wonderfully designed tank. The engine deck is large, flat, fantastic place to sleep. Very few things coming up to interrupt your night. The engine is going to stay warm for a lot of the evening, so very comfortable. This is a very important criterion, of course, for tankers. It's one of the things, the first thing I said when I saw the Bradley when I converted over was, where the hell do you sleep on this thing? There's no engine deck like there is on the tank. I guess you could lift up the access cover, but other than that, this engine deck is very sparse. There are a couple of ports. There's a fuel port on the right-hand side. There's a coolant port, oil port, and at the very front there's a port for the transmission fluid. The transmission deck itself can be lifted if you open up all 8 or 10 bolts, then get a couple of lads and lift it up. Common feature, I guess, of Soviet tanks. And that's it. It's going to be a fairly quick tank to look at on the outside. Of course, the next thing to have a look at is going to be the turret, and the object of the turret is to mount the M63 cannon. 100 millimeters, fires similar ammunition to the D10. You'll note it has a quad baffle muzzle brake at the end, just to keep the recoil a bit more manageable for a light tank. The armor on this isn't all that huge. You're talking about 3 inches, 75 millimeters or so on the front hull. The turret is effectively an expanded one for a T-54. They had to make it much bigger, obviously, because you're talking about 4 crewmen instead of the standard 3. That said, it is fairly well designed inside, so let's have a look and see how to make it work. First stop is the driver's position. Now, of course, he's in the turret, he's got to always be facing forward. So what's going to happen is that as the turret rotates, the driver's position maintains pretty much a forward direction aligned with the hull. The catch is that it seems to have broken, and the astute of you will notice that I'm actually angling slightly to the left. He does have, as I get my lanky legs up here, 2 pedals directly to his front, clutch and accelerator, and he has the 2 steering controls in the normal position, the ladder hurdles to turn right or left. As I move down, the gear shift is to the right. I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forward gears and 1 reverse. He has a couple of instrument panels. He's got his direct one to his front. He has an auxiliary one a little bit low and to the right, and there is one attached to the engine bulkhead as well, but he can't really see that as he's driving. Seat has 2 positions, up and down, and he's also responsible for loading the coaxial machine gun, which is right here to his left. And a primary control panel which has engine temperature, pressure, presumably a speedometer, which is missing. And the only 2 buttons I can actually figure out, I think, are one is the horn, and the other is this one that appears to say starter. 2 guesses. There is one additional thing to point out. Although the turret is capable of a full 360-degree traverse, the driver's seat is not. So as the vehicle is going around, you can only traverse up to about 70 degrees. That is a hard limit, and the vehicle can't traverse any more than that. The loader's position I like. I'm on this nice swivel seat that allows me to access pretty much all of my compartment and take the ammunition from all around. First of all, you have about 18 rounds of ready ammunition. Just pull one out, put it onto the loading tray here. It's a chain drive, so once you have the round on, you can move the tray over and the chain will ram the round home. The neat thing, and this actually took me a while to figure out, is that once you've used up the initial 10 or so rounds of ammunition that's immediately available to you, you simply fold these up out of the way, and then you slide the next set of ammunition around from the far side. Commander, of course, will help push. Use these up, push these further to the back, get the next set of ammunition. Once you've used up all that 18 rounds, there is additional ammunition stowage in the rear of the hull, directly to my front. I have to say, that's actually a very little neat idea. This would have been a fun tank to load. Not much else in here. There's an intercom system, couple of lights, and then the other side of the turret. I moved now to the commander seat, and I will say he's kind of cozy, but it's actually not bad. I've seen worse. The direct vision periscopes on the outside are actually derived from those of the M4 medium tank. Apparently the Soviets rather liked the design. He has 2 rounds of, I guess, ready ammunition just over his right shoulder, not on the sliding racks. As you move around, he has his periscope to the front, absolutely coated with grease. It's kind of strange. It's almost as if they want to preserve the small parts of the tank, but not all the tank. Move around, he's got his electrical control box. I see a travel lock, and over his left shoulder would be the radio. The gunner seat is fairly simple, easily laid out controls. He has his manual traverse, power traverse. Pull in your palm switch, and that way it'll release the lock and you can rotate. Under here appears to be the electrical trigger. Selectors for the main gun and coaxial. Manual elevation still. And there is a manual firing device. For sighting, he'll have a periscopic sight here and a direct vision telescope. Over his left shoulder, you can see that the azimuth scale is imprinted on the turret ring, and the commander or the gunner can hit the smoke generators if required. All in all, this is actually a pretty well laid out gunner seat. I like this turret. The tour is a little bit short. I'm not sure if it was because as a rare prototype vehicle we don't have much information that we can actually talk about, or because it is just a simple vehicle and there's not much to talk about. I suspect it's actually a combination of the two. That said, I actually like this one. It's far more livable than most of the Soviet vehicles that I've had the pleasure of being inside of. And it's almost a shame that it never saw service. What happened was it lost out in competition to the SE-100P, the vehicle that ironically it's sitting next to right now, which itself never got incredibly far. Anyway, that was Object 416, and I hope you found it somewhat informative. I'll see you next time.